Okay, we're on. So good morning and welcome to the Community Safety Committee of the Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Authority. And slightly belated start because of the weather, and but we're here. That's the main thing. And a happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So first item for official item is apologies for absence. Please.
Chair, we have apologies from council staff who is substituted by Councillor David Clark. We have apologies from Councillor Samina Riaz, who is unable to get here because of the weather, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. And
Councillor Wendy Lucas is going to be late.
Yes, so we know she's been called into a phone call. So, do we have any declarations of interest? No. So the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th of October, we weren't all at that one, but are we happy with the... Yeah, correct. So we go straight into the first item, or the first main item on the agenda, which is the Service Delivery Performance Report. And I think, Andy, you're talking us through this.
The first half, yes, I am, yes.
Oh, that's it, you're doing the first bit, and then
we couple after this.
It's a joint.
It is.
Joint affair, so over to Andy, thank you. Stereo.
Thank you. So I will start with the response part, and then Tom will take over the prevention and protection. So starting from 2.1 on the report. So the dates for this report are for quarter two. So it relates to the 1st July to the 30th September 25. So during quarter two, a total of 3,374 incidents were attended, which constitutes a 16.9% increase when compared to the same period in 24-25. This continues the upward trend in incident numbers that we reported in October based on quarter one, and was very expected because of the hot weather during the summer. The increase in quarter two incidents when compared to the same period in 2024-25 has largely been driven by a 43% increase in fires. 40.1% of that the increase was deemed to be deliberate fires. 45.8% increase in those was deemed to be accidental. That is absolutely attributable and absolutely common to the dry, hot summer that we experienced, and has not come as a surprise in any way. There has also, though, been an increase in special service calls and also false alarms, but to a much lesser extent. Figure 1, which is the first diagram that you have, shows the monthly comparison of the average number of incidents in the last 3 completed years to those in 25-26. You have got colour copies this time, am I right thinking? No, black and white, okay. So I apologise, I remember that from last time.
2 colours.
Two colours, too.
Has been issued electronic.
Oh, okay, lovely.
Colours.
Excellent, okay, so what the figure is showing is the grey shade that you've got on the top line then for most of you is the 25-26, and you can see the incident numbers tracking higher than the average for every month so far in 25-26. Breakdown by incident types attended over the last 12 months can be seen in figure 2. Now, false alarms and special service calls. False alarms have averaged 436. Special service calls have averaged 254 per month. That's fairly static. That's fairly common. Slight increase in quarter 2, like we've said, but fairly common. April 25, though, was the first time that fires had actually outnumbered false alarms since we had the heat wave in August 2022, and that trend has continued between April and August. Every month saw more fire incidents than false alarm incidents. But then as we hit September and the weather dropped, tailed off, we can see that it has returned back to normal in the sense that fires have dropped off quite significantly in September. Figure 3 shows a breakdown of the incidents by district in quarter 2, and as is very common, City of Nottingham experiences by far the most incidents in quarter 2, just short of 1,000, and Rushcliffe the fewest, just over 250. 2.6, we break down by priority type of incident over the last 12 months. So when we refer to P1 incidents, as a reminder, these are the incidents that are most serious. They pose an immediate threat to human life or a risk of severe human injury. P2 incidents pose a serious hazard and high risk to the environment, society, property or heritage. And P3 incidents pose a lower hazard to human life, the environment, society, property or heritage. So 2.6, the figure 4 shows a breakdown of those incident types, and we can see that it is the P3 incidents which are the most prevalent. So when we looked at priority type incidents, the year-on-year comparison, so what happened in quarter 2 24-25 compared to what happened in quarter 2 25-26, the biggest increase has clearly been in the less serious P3 incident types, which again is what we would expect with hot dry weather. This is the commonly fires in rural areas,
barbecue,
absolutely wildfire type incidents. So moving on to 2.8, a key community risk management plan target that we have is that all emergency incidents will be attended on average within 8 minutes. This is from the time the first appliance is mobilised to the time that gets in attendance. Now during quarter 2, the average attendance time has been above that target at 8 minutes and 22 seconds. That is also 19 seconds slower than the same period of 24-25. Now, that below target performance is a consequence in the increase in the number of fires and particularly in their locations. So what we have found is increased demand in more rural areas. Rural fires are typically more difficult to locate and attend. So we can see in figure 5 that during the period, clearly between April and August, we struggle to meet that 8-minute target time because of the rurality and the location of those incident types. But again, we've hit September, we've dropped back below that 8-minute mobilisation to in attendance time. Now, I've included 2 appendices in these report, as I did last quarter, which show that a little bit more pictorially. The Appendix A and Appendix B compare the P3 fires that we attended in quarter 2 24-25 to those in 25-26, and I think that illustrates the rurality of a lot of the incidents that we were attending in 25-26, which causes that longer attendance times. Now, the increase in attendance time could have been even more significant if it wasn't for the fact that both our whole time and our on-call crews both met their targets for how quickly they get out of station, which is pleasing, and that's been the case for a number of quarters concurrently. Now, talking more specifically about on-call, in April 2024, the service introduced a new dual employment policy, which aims to ensure that those who fulfil both a whole-time and on-call role with the service comply with the working time regulations, and that they have sufficient rest periods and are suitably fit for duty. The policy basically requires those that are dual employed to have mandatory periods of rest. They have to take periods of unavailability from their on-call role immediately prior to their whole-time shifts. Now, we did a lot of work on this, a lot of modelling, and we anticipated that this would have a small impact on the availability of on-call, and that has played out, as we have discussed in previous meetings. So in quarter 2, on-call station availability averaged 80.7%. Which is below the service's target of 85%. It is also, however, a decrease on what was achieved in the same period of 24-25, where we achieved nearly 83% availability. So whilst we failed to meet the 85% target in quarter 2, I think as a point of note, our on-call availability is still strong nationally. When we compare ourselves nationally, where the average on-call availability is 66%, the current figures show. So whilst we are slightly below the target that we have set ourselves, we are still significantly above the national average. Now, figure 6 shows the breakdown of on-call availability by station in quarter 2. 14 of the 16 on-call sections provided availability above that national average, with Warsop I would like to highlight as being available 24 hours a day throughout quarter 2, which is a significant achievement, and obviously it's a key holiday period for people as well. Really, really good. However, Hartworth and Southwell fell below the national average, and later in the agenda, I have another paper to discuss with you on on-call recruitment and retention. I will update you further on the details as to why that is in that paper, if that is okay. To provide a longer-term overview of on-call station availability, figure 7 shows the availability from every completed quarter within the last 5 years. And you can see from that how, once we introduced the dual employment policy, the availability has dropped just below where we would like it to be. And again, I will talk about the efforts we are taking to bring that up again in that other paper. Now, whole-time appliances can become unavailable themselves due to a range of things such as mechanical faults, servicing, insufficient crewing levels, replenishment of contaminated protective equipment, out-of-county training, or for crew welfare. Where an appliance has been taken off the run for in-county training or prevention or protection activities, it is not deemed as being unavailable. There are occasions where we will take an appliance off the run for everyday run-of-the-mill type incidents so that they can do in-county training and such like. But if we really needed them, we can recall them to duty, and we would do. So we don't deem them as being unavailable in those matters. Now, we have a target that all whole-time appliances, on average, will be available 98% of the time. Now, collectively, whole-time appliances have been available for 97.3% of the time in quarter two, so just below our target figure.
If only we could have rounded it up a bit back.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
0.333.
Yes. So we're very close to our target figure, but we are slightly below it, and there's a number of reasons for those. And one of those is that there were 70 occasions where we had to take an appliance off the run because of crewing. Because in line with our degradation policy, we had to move staff around to maintain appliances elsewhere. There's reasons for that. That is really due to the current level of operational personnel available within the service, and also both long and short-term sickness absences within quarter two. The target for our availability of special appliances, so things such as like our aerial ladder platforms, specialist rescue units, command support unit, environmental protection units, is 95%. Now, in quarter two, these assets were available for 98.2% of the time, so well within our target. A key part of the service's ongoing commitment is to ensure resources are mobilised to emergency incidents in a timely manner. As part of our functional collaboration agreement with Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service and the ongoing monitor of joint fire control, there were 3 key performance measures that we monitor. The first one is around the percentage of 999 calls that answer within 7 seconds. The target for this is 96%. So figure 8 shows the performance over the last 8 completed quarters, and despite that increase in incident numbers and subsequent increase in call volume, I'm really pleased to report that Joint Fire Control managed to answer 96.6% of calls within that 7-second period, so above target, and it equals the best performance within the last 2 years, which was in quarter one. So we've got a real consistent, positive ability there. The second metric we look at for joint fire control is around the average call handling times for those P1 and P2 incidents, those most serious of our incidents when life is at risk. And the target for this is within 86 seconds. So that is by the time they've taken the call, dealt with all the information that's incoming, to press the button and mobilise the appliance. Now, over the last 8 completed quarters, figure 9 shows what that performance is, and performance in quarter 2 was well below the target at 68 seconds. So again, a real positive achievement. And we can see from figure 9 that there is a lot of consistency where we are bettering that target each quarter. Now, the final metric for joint fire control is mobilisation system availability. Now, the system is classed as being unavailable for a number of reasons, including things such as loss of officer pager alerting, loss of mapping, or the inability to connect to Wi-Fi. It doesn't necessarily mean that the system is down and appliances can't be mobilised. Now, the service works very closely with the mobilising supplier, which is Sistel, to identify and address any faults that do occur. The target for system availability is 99%. Figure 10 shows the performance over the last 8 completed quarters. In quarter 2, the mobilisation system, the availability fell just below that target at 98.6%. I'm going to move on now just to talk about incidents of prisons, just to give you an update on some changes that we made to predetermined attendances approximately 12 months ago. So in January 25, members heard that the service had begun a trial to revise predetermined attendances to incidents at prisons. This was aimed at reducing the significant increase in such attendances which had occurred in the preceding 12 months. Now, due to the building safety features and strict regulations, the presence of qualified and trained prison staff with access to extinguishing media and 24-hour surveillance, it was determined that changes to those predetermined attendances could be trialled safely. Traditionally, the standard response to all incidents at prisons have been the mobilisation of 3 appliances and an officer. From the 1st of August 24, the trial saw attendances to incidents being determined by what the type of incident was, rather than the blanket 3 appliances and an officer. The change brought the attendance at prison incidents in line with other high-risk buildings such as hospitals. The trial period saw 50% reduction in incident attendances when compared to the same period in the preceding 12 months, and no adverse implications were reported by both prison staff or members of Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service. It was decided then that the revised PDAs will be adopted into the standard mobilising. Now, Table 1 here shows the impact of the change that has made and the significant reduction that the appliance mobilisations have achieved. So we can see there in Quarter 1 and Quarter 2 in 23-24 we had 301 appliance mobilisations to incidents in prisons. We introduced the trial. We've now firmed up the trial as being a permanent change, and in Quarter 1, Quarter 2, 25-26 those attendances have dropped to 86, so a real significant drop in mobilisations.
Okay, so that's your
That's my piece.
So does anyone have any questions?
It just might be worthwhile, you keep saying targets.
Yeah.
Or targeting targets that you set, or the national targets you have to hit.
It's targets that we've set ourselves and the sort of ambitions we have.
Mainly for the audience.
Of course.
I was it last
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have a question. Has any work been done on the monetary side of things to see what the saving is from not having to deploy on those incidents? I'm assuming someone will have done some.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have done some indicative costings around that previously. The difficulty is it's more of an efficiency saving because, particularly around the prison attendances, a lot of our attendances will be whole-time staff and people who are at work. So rather than being delayed at an incident for an hour or more where they're not needed, we can now use that time more effectively. So when Tom will come on to the levels of safe and well visits we're doing or business safety checks and things like that, the increase in that productivity is very much partly as a result around more efficient use of our crews. So rather than having 3 fire engines set outside a prison for a couple of hours, they're busy in the community doing things. So we can monetise it, but it's quite difficult to be a genuine figure, if that makes sense. So the Home Office measure us against the efficiency and also productivity. So the productivity bit is really where we've seen those increases and better use of staff. We can provide that indicative monetary figure if that helps. But we look at it more in terms of the increases of better use of our staff, really.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So would that be something to come to perhaps finance when it comes more of a finance committee item on the moment when we're looking at overall?
Yeah, so the productivity and efficiency report to the Home Office reported through Financial Resources Committee, and that looks at the productivity of staff and definitely around that. So we also, it's very similar to, we have a charging policy, so certain incidents we won't attend unless somebody pays us, so normally non-emergency, more assistance type incidents. The outputs of that are reported to F&R Committee as well.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you.
John?
If I may speak.
You may.
It's money again. Is the cost of sending out an appliance for a priority 1 the same as a priority 3?
Yes. Yes.
Just looking at this graph here,
Which
I haven't done the maths properly, but it looks at somewhere between 60 and 70% of your call-outs are priority 3.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of what priority 3 is? It says low risk or low hazard human.
Yeah,
What would it be?
A good example of priority 3, particularly in the course we're talking about in the summer, would be a small fire in woodland, for example, which could be deliberate, it could be accidental, but it's not posing any threat to any people, any community, but it needs to go and be dealt with to ensure that it doesn't become a bigger incident. So that would be a typical example of P3.
Seems a huge amount for what you are categorising as a low hazard. 60-70%
Yeah.
low hazard.
The only thing
It would be nice if there was volunteers somewhere trained that could just go out and stamp out the fire.
The only thing I would quantify what I just said about is we would only send 1 fire appliance to that.
Yeah.
If it was a P1 incident, the predeterminants will be far greater. We will be sending.
I mean, if it's not dealt with, obviously it has the potential.
It has the
potential. It could easily turn into
It could become a catastrophe.
So it's almost preventative in that sense.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? All right.
Well done for that.
Thank you.
So you're okay with that? Right. So So we'll go on to community safety and engagement now. So that's
Yes,
So-
that's me. I'll be taking you through community safety engagement and then protection in terms of performance for the same quarter, same time period as Andy in response. I make no apologies, it's a lengthy report because the teams have been exceptionally busy as per normal and as you would expect. I will go through, I'll start from 2.27. I will mention the points that I've highlighted myself, but obviously if you want me to, if I've missed a point, please come back to it if you want me to go through it. So within quarter two, the service has completed 4,586 safe and well visits, meaning that we're on target to achieve our CRMP figure of 16,000 safe and well visits in 25-26. You'll be pleased to hear. So another busy quarter of safe and wells. And those visits equate to almost 4 visits per 1,000 population, which is comfortably above the service target of 2.6. And we derive this from the English national average completions from fire and rescue services. So this means that Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue has achieved a 56% higher average than the national average in this metric. So we, just give you an indication of that comparable performance there.
But we're
We
never
really are
complacent with it, though.
working. No, absolutely not. It takes a lot of work. At 2.9 of those safe and wells delivered in quarter two, 52% were to those over the age of 65 and 43% were to those who identified as having a disability, which, as you know, are one of two of our key metrics within our sort of risk profiling matrix. And the disability figure, though, is below our target of 51%, and we are doing some analysis around ascertaining the reason for this, as our referrals from partner agencies remain really, really strong and appropriate, with 88% of professional referrals being classified as medium risk or higher prior to our intervention. So those professional referrals are coming in, they are suitable and they are coming in at the right level that we would expect them to be. So moving on to 2.33, safeguarding remains a key responsibility within departments, and in quarter two, when the outcome of that is known, 50% of adult and 100% of child safeguarding referrals were accepted as meeting the threshold for safeguarding, so we are making appropriate referrals into safeguarding processes. And our county youth justice service referrals for young people who are taken to court for relevant driving offences in motor vehicles are now embedded as business as usual within the team following the restructure. And in quarter two, 18 sessions were delivered for the 9 young people who were referred, 100% of whom were seen within our 28-day target. So it does help to avoid making them first entrance into the criminal justice system. Really socially sort of beneficial scheme we run there. At 2.35, I've summarised in the bullets there around some of the performance of the team. I won't go through each bullet, but hopefully giving you an idea of the wide variety of things the team gets involved in, showing the business and how much work they are doing. So I'll happily take any questions on any of those if you have any. But again, a really busy quarter for the team. So moving on to 2.36. Our befriending work builds on the relationships built by response crews with our diverse local community groups, and enables the service to reach more people for our safe and well visits, promote key safety messages through trusted local voices, and to share employment opportunities. So a really key pathway for our positive action work, both within our operational personnel and our enabling services across the county. So these relationships continue to form part of our positive action work, as I've just said. And in quarter two, response crews have recorded 33 engagements as part of their befriending work. And this is an area of focus for the team to increase that number of engagements from response crews. So it's a real key link between my team in community safety engagement and Andy's in response to make sure we are meeting these diverse community groups and getting into them in appropriate numbers. 2.37, in quarter two, 100% of our fire safety intervention referrals that were received by the team have seen intervention delivered, and of these, 75% of parents and carers continue to identify positive behavioural change in those referred at the 3-month review meeting. So we're fully evaluating that on an ongoing basis, and it's proving to be very effective in reducing that sort of fire setting behaviour. At 2.38, Safety Zone continues to be a key work stream for the community safety and engagement team, working with partner agencies. And in quarter two, Safety Zone was delivered by Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service from Worksop Fire Station, with 259 pupils from 11 schools, and Home Pierpont Water Sports Centre to 1,344 pupils, where you can see there 634 were from city schools and 710 were from county schools. So that means that at 2.39, we have now met our CRMP target of those 2,000 pupils attending the Safety Zone. and engaged in total with over 2,200, which is a real significant achievement and a very great example of sort of multi-agency partnership working. We don't have any further safety zone events planned this year, but again, post-event evaluation demonstrates that pupils do retain the knowledge they are given during the event when they're questioned 2 weeks post-event, and that partner agencies do value the attendance at these things. At 2.40, fire investigations, as you know, are delivered, managed and coordinated as part of the Community Safety Engagement Team. And in quarter 2, 97% of our Tier 2 fire investigations were undertaken by Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service personnel against our service target of 90%. And 72% of our weekday investigations were undertaken by the core fire investigation team against our CRMP target of 75. So just dipped under that one for reasons, a little bit of sickness and some maternity within the team as well, so still a great performance there. Moving on, that's the summarisation of community safety engagements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. So yes, a couple of questions. So Jim, first of all.
Yeah, fire investigations, we had a good day out with the dogs. I don't see them broken down separately anywhere. Is there a reason for that? I think it's an excellent service.
Yeah, so that breakdown, so obviously every deliberate fire that we go to, so all of our response supervision managers are trained in fire investigation. That's a tier 1, so it's sort of that initial fire investigation to ascertain what's the most likely cause of this fire, and that feeds into our reporting through the incident recording system, which feeds into government. The tier 2 fire investigations are those serious, much more serious fire investigations undertaken by our fire investigators, our specially trained fire investigation officers, of which we have currently about 9 flexi-duty officers trained in that regard, plus the core team themselves. And that's when, and some of those you will utilise the hydrocarbon detection dog, or K9, I suppose, to give it its posh name, to investigate the cause of those fires. I can certainly break them down more fully for you in future reports if you're interested.
I think they're excellent value for money, and we should shout it.
Yeah. Well, we do. So we do produce a report on the dogs' activities and their handlers as well, because we can't forget the hard work of their human companions. So we do produce an annual report looking at their performance, what they've done, because they do a lot more than just undertake fire investigations. They deliver fire investigation courses across the region.
I was going to say they cover a huge region.
They do, yeah, they do cover. They attend incidents outside of region if needed. So we have working relationships with other fire and rescue services across England. They also attend a lot of community engagement events because they are a big draw to people who want to come and say hello. So I can certainly, if you're interested, I will definitely send you that report.
I just think the service is excellent and the value for money. When I find out the costings, I think, crikey.
No, they do deliver good value for money. I think it's one of the things we're looking at all the time is around value for money. Yeah. The availability they give from one, so there's 2 dogs and 2 handlers, and they share one role, and they are available on virtually 100% of the time.
24/7. Yeah, anyway, welcome to those guys.
We'll definitely, we can, as Tom said, we can break that information down. We can bring out a future report on that and just highlight that work.
It looks good, and it's something we can get our teeth into. And looking forward, when we start talking funding in the future, after LGR, when we decide where it's going, I just think it's something we could expand.
Yeah, it demonstrates a really good model around how we work with other East Midlands fire and rescue services already, and yeah, I think we can do it.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. The safety zone for the youngsters, for the pupils. How do we target? How do we identify?
It's targeted at schools that have sort of pupils who are would be classified as sort of higher risk or in sort of greater levels of social need. We work with partner agencies to do that. We look at through our youth work as well. So we have well-established partnership arrangements with local schools. There's always pressure on those schools because they have to get their pupils there. So cost and funding does come into it from those educational establishments. But we work very hard to make sure that we're offering that as widely as possible. And that's obviously breaking that down at 2.38, trying to give you that across 13 city schools and 14 county schools, just in that one event at Home Pierpont shows the broadness of the delivery.
Over 1,300 people at one event.
It's a significant undertaking. It takes a lot of planning by the team, an immense amount of hard work, and you know, it is but it's a really, really worthwhile event, and obviously we will always send you the dates to make sure if you're interested in
Yes,
coming
please.
along.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
Because it's a really positive. To see it in action is really impressive because
Yeah.
you know we organise it from our parts of safety zone. We organise that event, and then partner agencies come on. So we work with police, we work with sort of rural crime teams, EMAS, Nottingham City Transport around teaching things like bus safety, tram safety. You know, some things that perhaps you wouldn't immediately think that we would do. But we have multiple partner agencies, and then we then attend safety zone that's organised by other partners as well. So it's a really, so we're only reporting on the ones we organise as well. So this is a wider thing, but it takes a significant amount of work from the team, and I'm really proud of the work they deliver.
And do we do any sort of follow-up afterwards?
Yeah, so that's part of that event, post-event evaluation.
Right.
So we have, so how that is evaluated, it is not the most it is robust, but it's very simple. We ask children questions on safety, around fire safety, at the event or pre-event, and then 2 weeks after, the teachers ask them the same questions, or 2, 3, 4 weeks after we ask them the same questions. We look at how they retained that information. So it's in an action evaluation that is looked at to see what is the efficacy of the delivery.
Did I see another hand go?
No.
Yeah, I was about to ask exactly what
Same
you just
question.
asked. But
Great minds thinking alike.
it does explain. I was wondering why there's 13 city schools and 14 county schools, but you've answered it. You identify a school that would be considered at risk, and I'm guessing the inner city schools would be possibly more at
Absolutely.
risk.
Yeah, and I think it is part of, obviously we have that commitment to serve Nottinghamshire in its entirety. You know, we work very hard not to target our limited resources at those areas of greatest need, but we need to make sure that as many children as possible have that opportunity to attend.
Didn't have anything like that when I was at school.
Oh, we have
Happy school trips.
And fire investigations, 2.40. We've got very good percentages there. How does that? Do we know the actual number of?
Yeah, I know. I'm precisely the number.
I thought you would do. Yes.
It will be in my computer. I will send that to you if you're interested.
Yeah,
I
just
think,
general. Because it's just good to know, really. Because percentages are good to see, but it's nice to know what the actual sort of on the ground action is.
Yeah, I will, rather than guess and give you an accurate figure, I'll send it straight to our meeting. But we do a significant amount of tier 2 FIs.
Yeah, great. Okay, super. So, any more questions on that section? So we'll go on to the the fire protection now. So that's back to Anthony.
Yeah. So fire protection starting at 2.43.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry, I
it's okay.
I called you Andy.
That's okay.
So 2.43, and the completion of 1,100 fire safety audits in 25-26 is the revised CRMP commitment. So members will remember when we brought the decision around reducing that figure due to our workload, which was agreed on the 10th of October 2025. But within Q2, we've completed 308 fire safety audits, and the service will meet its target if this number of audits is repeated across the remaining 2 quarters of this year. And without ruining the surprise of Q3's report, we are on target again for that, so you can be assured that we are maintaining that level of work to meet that target. But I think you should please take assurance from the fact that we are still performing significantly above the national average when compared to English fire and rescue services. The last data available for national comparison at 24-25 highlighted that we undertake 8.5 fire safety audits per 100 known premises compared to 2 fire safety audits per 100 known premises across England. This number has been validated within the risk-based inspection programme evaluation report that I'm presenting to this committee elsewhere on today's agenda. So you can be assured that, again, whilst we have reduced that target, we are performing significantly above the national average in that regard. At 2.45, again, a summary of other activities the protection team has completed within Q2. And I will read these out because I hope they do give that indication of the level of work that is undertaken. It's not just about fire safety audits. They've completed 35 post-incident inspections, and we have targets against virtually all of these as well. So 100% of those incidents were completed within the 48-hour target. 76 follow-ups to complaints, and again 100% responded to within the 48-hour target against a 100% target. 11 enforcement notices, 6 prohibition notices, 201 building regulation consultations, of which almost 100%, 99.5, were responded to within our targeted 15 working days. 88 licensing consultations, 145 other consultations with agencies such as Ofsted and the Care Quality Commission. And then, most significantly, our ongoing work around, we have 10 investigations underway under the regulatory reform order. And again, just to give you some sort of context on that at 2.46, these investigations continue to present significant resourcing challenges. So to maintain our levels of performance whilst doing these investigations is significant. And to date, the most complex investigation we're undertaking has taken over 300 hours of work from within the team, which equates to approximately 35 days of work for a single individual. And that investigation is nowhere near finished. It's a significantly complex one that we are working very closely with the service solicitors on.
Oh, sorry, yes, Jim.
No, yeah, AI. With regard to investigations, so are we doing anything? Are we looking ahead?
So we are looking at AI across the service. We've we've had a presentation at SLT on how we can use it more effectively. Where an investigation with regulatory reform order needs a lot of human work at this stage. So where AI can transcribe interviews, for example, that so the team conduct interviews under PACE, recorded interviews with people, responsible persons of these buildings. But that work itself is a saving from sort of our administrative function anyway, because that wouldn't be work that was undertaken by the team in terms of transcribing. But it needs site visits, it needs photos taking, it needs that work that I think at present AI probably wouldn't do to have the robust level of assurance that you would need, that because AI makes mistakes. I think as I'm sure you know, we had one of the things that I learned from our presentation at SLT was around how AI is structured, and it will give you a response whether it's right, whether it needs to make something up or not. And we're very conscious that we cannot afford to make mistakes on our investigations.
Yeah.
So we're always looking at ways we can improve and drive efficiencies from the team, but at present it is a very human process and one that takes a lot of work from individuals.
Thank you very much.
On this 2.45 protection team, where we 76 follow-up to complaints, what are these complaints?
So they can be anything. So they can be something like you may go for a meal in a restaurant and notice that the fire doors are chained shut, and then you will make a complaint, and we will go out and attend that very rapidly to ascertain is it suitable that is changed.
So we're responding to
responding to. So it's members of the public phoning in and saying that there is an issue here, and I think it's things like that.
So we don't have any ski results.
Well, yes. What was the other one?
I mean, I have got an anecdotal bit of information that is interesting. I think as an example, you mentioned the ski, the tragic incident. We have very recently responded to a premises that had a covering on the ceiling that we have taken a sample of, tested, and then worked with the responsible person to remove. So to give an indication that we are looking at these things, the team is very, very cognizant of the risks in those sorts of areas. So it's not that's the sort of thing we're responding to on those, but you can be assured that we are looking at those things.
And I know you won't be able to tell us what the big incident is, but in 2.46, why it's taking so much in the way of resource. I mean, I assume there's all other sort of agencies involved in whatever it is. I guess at some point a report will come out, won't it? And then it might be an opportunity, perhaps here, for you to go into more details. Just what did take? Certainly.
I get strictly briefed by my team on being careful with information, because any information shared is disclosable in any investigation process, and certainly through any criminal proceedings. So we are very careful with what we disclose whilst we are undertaking it. Following the conclusion of that investigation, whether it finishes and there is no case to answer, or whether it goes all the way through to criminal proceedings and then a verdict. Post-verdict, we can share information because it will be in the public domain, but we can certainly discuss with you sort of what the work entails.
Yes, that's basically it. It gives us a better understanding as to just what's going on and what's using the resource. But
so that resource, I think, it's undertaking interviews with the responsible people. So it's not just one person; it's multiple people across multiple companies. There's in the region of 1,000 photographs of breaches that have to be collated, marked, referred to. They have to be in order. They have to be done properly and within sort of the regulations. There's a significant amount of research done to ascertain what are the breaches. There's responding to people's availability that always changes when we want to interview them, obviously, and the sites in themselves are significant. Plus, then the work with the solicitors around and the barrister around how we're going to build our case file.
I will just add to that our current history in terms of enforcement and proceedings at court is 100% success rate, and I think that is credit to Tom and the fire protection team, and sort of just sums up why we have this meticulous approach to it. It is an incredibly technical subject, and you have to appreciate that on the other side you have incredibly technically competent people defending those cases as well, but 100% success rate at prosecutions is I think remarkable. Really. So credit.
And I wish I could take credit. I can't take it. It is the team. It's nice to, but it's the work the team does, that professionalism, because it's every case needs the same sort of level of oversight, and the fact we've got 10 at the minute, again, that we are actively increasing the level of fire safety across the county, and we will always, and I think again that assurance I can give you, we will always work with responsible people. So prosecution is our last resort, and we work extremely hard to avoid that if we can, because we are here to we can't advise because we are the enforcement authority, but we're here to help. We can give guidance, we can have meetings, so it is always the last resort.
Good. And, John.
So in a similar vein, actually, getting false alarm malicious.
Certainly,
Now, this obviously is a criminal act. To wrongfully call out emergency
Yes.
services, deliberately do that. Are the police routinely called when your appliance arrives and realise that it's a false call?
Just before we go on to that, we haven't actually discussed that part of the report.
Oh, am I getting ahead of myself? Sorry.
Because there may be other questions under that heading. But
I'm a tourist as well.
That's all right. So, do you want to go into the reducing demand section?
I've got a few more points I'd like to highlight.
On fire protection.
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. We're just getting ahead of ourselves.
No, it's not. Thank you for being interested. It's lovely. So I've just come to 2.47, which is just following on from that. Obviously all the discussion we've had around investigations. So you can be assured of the continued performance of the protection team. So in table 2 there, it does illustrate the increased numbers of prohibitions being served across Nottinghamshire. So from 11 in 21-22 to 20 to today's, to about 3 weeks ago's date in 25-26. So we're seeing an increase in prohibitions. So that is when we actually go into a premises and restrict access to a part or all of it due to fire safety deficiencies. I'll come to 2.49 now, if I may, around business safety checks. So the completion of 1,650 business safety checks in 25-26 is a CRMP commitment. Within quarter 2, the service has undertaken 431 of these checks, and we are on track to meet our annual target around that. Following business safety checks, approximately 10% of these result in a poor outcome, which necessitates the involvement of our fire safety inspectors. The out-of-hours trial established to ensure the service can access a qualified fire safety inspector at all times continues to be utilised to respond to the outcomes of these visits where they occur out of normal office hours. And in quarter 2, the out-of-hours function was available 100% of the time and responded to 5 fire safety concerns. So members will be aware that was one of the points highlighted from our last HMIC FRS inspection report around our out-of-hours availability. So we've implemented that provision, and it's working very, very well at this point in time. And almost as we have established it and it becomes more well known and works more effectively, people are using it more as well. So we've seen a significant uptick in use of that facility outside of sort of normal office hours. Our fires at 2.51, our fire safety inspectors continue to work closely with response supervision managers through assessing submitted evidence from personnel undertaking the business safe check qualification, and additionally shadowing inspections which must be completed for those personnel to gain their warranted status. And currently 95% of our whole-time watches have at least one supervisory manager qualified to undertake unsupervised business safety checks. And just lastly on this section, we have a further 29 additional supervisory managers undertaking the qualification across 3 separate cohorts of individuals. And again, that's just to give you a flavour of the work that entails. So that's a significant amount of work for the response supervision managers. They have a portfolio they have to complete and evidence they have to upload and answer questions. But it's the fire safety inspectors who need to mark all that information, evidence. We are accredited by Skills for Justice in terms of an awarding body to give this qualification out. So again, significant work and high level of performance required to maintain that. And I'm hoping, Andy and I talk very frequently around, I'm hoping we'll very soon get to a point where we almost have 100% of our watches having a qualified individual permanently, substantively on that watch. Good. Jim?
Yeah, can you access any funding for that? Skills funding? I mean, if you're mentoring people and it is a recognised award, can we not draw some money from FE?
I don't know. I think it's a very good question. I can certainly look into that. I don't
I used to get 2,400 quid for MBQ2. Somebody unemployed. I'm thinking, crikey, surely you can suck some of that in.
It's something we could potentially talk to the mayoral office about, because I know they've taken on now the adult funding, adult education funding, and I was in a meeting recently where they were looking at below level 3 qualifications. This is a level 3 certificate in fire safety, so we'll definitely look into that, and
That's very good.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. So, any more questions on fire protection, or shall we?
Well, I'm still in fire protection. So,
Oh, you're still.
so yes, I'm afraid the whole rest of it is me.
On we go.
He knew that.
I know. I've tried to put some headings in just to try and break it up to give it into certain sections. But I'm coming on to that reducing demand bit at 2.53 now, if that's okay.
Yep.
So during the reporting period, the service responded to 1,375 false alarms, which is a 2% increase on the same period last year. And these are broken down into the 3 areas that you've already mentioned. Well, one of the 3 areas I mentioned, Councillor, already. So the first is false alarm malicious, which are calls made with the intention of getting us to attend a non-existent incident, including deliberate and suspected malicious intentions, or where the fire and rescue service attends a location believing there to be a fire incident, but on arrival discovers that no such incident exists or existed. In 24-25, we responded to 0.2 false alarm malicious calls per 1,000 population, with the national average being 0.1. But I would like to draw your attention, this is from a total of 179 incidents across the year. In Q2, we've attended 36 false alarm malicious incidents. Just to respond to that sort of question, I suppose, a little already, we highlight these as malicious calls as part of our messaging back to control, which is passed on to police. We are able to track phone numbers. We're able to work with police to block phone numbers of repeated offenders. And I think it's since the advent of mobile phones, it's reduced significantly because it's a lot easier to be tracked. So it is a waste of our resource, and we work hard to reduce it.
It's just really embarrassing that people do that. And I noticed that we're double the national average. I'm guessing that's a national average because you've got a lot of rural areas where there's not idiots that do this sort of thing.
Well, as for the reasons of across the country why they have less, that is not something that currently we're doing a lot of analysis on.
How does that compare to, say, I don't know, Sheffield?
I'd have to find that out, but they would. I imagine an urban conurbation like that would have more. But again,
But
I think
it's double.
But in terms of the number of incidents, it is absolutely double, which is why we put it in for your scrutiny. But in terms of the number of incidents at 179, it's not a significant drain on our resources, and we do work very hard to track down those.
But it is a
culprits and work with
completely
police to
unnecessary
stop
drain
it.
of resources.
Mm.
And the reason I asked if the police are involved, because I don't know, but I would assume that it is a core group of people that do this. And if we could get them told to cease and desist in some way, it would make a significant difference on the amount of people that do it.
Absolutely.
So you don't wake up, a normal person doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to pretend there's a fire and call the fire. It's just going to be a select group of people. That 179, I would guess, is probably coming from 20 people.
We have a range of bits around this, and there are a few individual case studies in our history around where you have a repeat offender. I will say police and ambulance both suffer significantly more for our looking at our position. And I think those false alarm malicious calls are a range of mental health issues, children, young people, and that traditional phone box type the thing. However, where there is a consistent and persistent offender, the police definitely take a very serious view of that. And I think there are far more cases where the police have persistent offenders where they take legal action, they take criminal action against them. As Tom says, we're in a lucky position. It's not acceptable by any means. 179 is 179 too many. But I think in comparison to about the 10,000 incidents we attend, about 14,000 calls we receive.
I think it's just I can't get it in my head why they didn't do it.
No, it's
Absolutely bizarre.
It's like anything in life and communities, there are some strange, interesting characters. Right.
Happy me to continue, Chair?
Yes, please.
So the second area that's broken down into is false alarm good intent, where these are calls made in good faith in the belief that we'd need to attend. But when we do, it's found that no action is required. And in quarter two, we attended 396 false alarm good intent calls.
Okay.
And then lastly, false alarm apparatus, which are calls initiated by a fire alarm operating or where an alarm operates and a person then routinely calls the fire and rescue service as part of a standing arrangement. So these incidents are classified as unwanted fire signals. In 24-25, NFRS responded to 4.3 unwanted fire signals per 1,000 population, with the national average being the same at 4.3. But during quarter two, we responded to 747 unwanted fire signals, and of these, 177 were at non-residential premises, with 122 at hospitals, 490 at dwellings, for example, sheltered housing, purpose-built flats and houses in multiple occupation, and 80 at residential premises, such as care homes, residential care homes and student halls of residence. Following each unwanted fire signal, the premise owner for non-residential premises receives a letter from the fire service outlining their responsibilities in relation to fire safety. Following a fourth occurrence, the premises is contacted by the service's business education advocate, and sixth occurrence prompts a full audit from the fire safety inspector. At 2.56, just the last bit on this section, in line with the Community Risk Management Plan 25-28, the fire protection team is committed to developing ways to reduce the number of unwanted fire signals the service attends by more than the national average. Members will be aware that the trend for an increasing number of these attendances is a national one, not one confined to Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service, and we do continue to work with responsible persons to reduce these incidents and utilise national best practice in their reduction where we can. Would you like me to move on, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So the next section is on our joint audit and inspection team. So the joint audit inspection team collaboration, which we shortened to JATE, which is between Nottingham City Council and Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service, conducted 17 inspections consisting of 8 audits and 9 follow-ups in quarter two. There are 122 premises on the JATE audit list, which is a decrease of 1 from the last report presented to this committee. And we do continue to prioritise the JATE, and we are working with the City Council to ensure that all the premises on the audit list are inspected in line with the 2-year timescale, in line with our risk-based inspection programme 2-year timescale for high-risk premises. So that 120 premises, we will have inspected them all within 2 years. They don't all come off the list immediately, because the reason they're on the list is they're complex buildings, generally high-rise buildings as well, so that it's not something that can just be fixed in a few visits. So that we would have inspected and audited all of them in partnership with our City Council colleagues, but some where we can take them off the list, we bring them off the list, as has happened with that one, but generally they stay on because they need a bit more work. Moving on to the Building Safety Regulator, so 2.60. So the Building Safety Act received royal assent during 23-24, and the Building Safety Act saw the creation of the BSR, with Health and Safety Executive being appointed to lead on the regulation of new and existing buildings which fall within scope. But just moving on to 2.63, so we receive regional reports from the East Midlands Building Safety Manager, who is in Essex, detailing the work undertaken and outlining the time taken for recharging purposes. So this includes a breakdown of the elements the multidisciplinary team is undertaking. So recent work within the BSR, so the Building Safety Regulator function in Nottinghamshire Financial Service, has included 17 tasks for the in-occupation sort of regime, which entail review of the building safety case report and subsequent gap analysis, and 22 building control assessments, also known as Gateway 2 applications, which are an assessment of a building's compliance against appropriate approved documents. This work has represented 93 hours of billable work within the period covered by this report. And I just would like to draw your attention to, so the regional manager was in a period of transition last quarter. So the billable hours for quarter one were 113 and not 98, as I did report to you on the 10th of October 25. So we had which essentially means we received more money for the work that our teams have done. So it was a mistake in that previous report.
Good mistake.
Yeah. Worse mistakes have been made, I think. So, yeah. I'll move on then to remediation acceleration plans.
Yeah,
if
if we
there's no
have to do
questions.
that. Yes.
So you'll be pleased to know the final part of my voice at 2.64. So since the announcement by the Deputy Prime Minister of the remediation acceleration plans and their coordination with the regional mayors, the NFRS protection team has been fully engaged with the East Midlands Combined County Authority in preparation of our plans. So 2.65 summarises the government's intent, as I'm sure members will be aware. But at 2.67, recruitment for the identified MCA roles has been completed now, and individuals have started to enrol or are due to start this month and have started a few days ago. But at 2.68, following receipt of data from MHCLG, Homes England, and shared data with Nottingham City Council, we've created a work plan aiming to prioritise buildings for inspection where information exists to indicate issues with cladding. So this list compromises of approximately 114 over 18 metres tall buildings and 284 11 to 18 metre tall buildings, in addition to the 122 premises already on the JATE list. So we are currently undergoing quite a significant period of data cleansing to ensure we get that full picture of the work required, because we need to know what the problem is. We are starting work already, but we need to know whether we're satisfied with what the problem is. So just to draw attention to the final point from me on this report at 2.70.
Just before we go into that, we obviously understand that it's primarily city council buildings, the nature of the buildings and stuff, but are there any sort of cases, the cladding cases away from the city?
Yes, so it's the 11 to 18 metre, now they're in
Yeah.
scope, they've obviously widened that net considerably, and there are a lot more of those sort of size of buildings away from the city.
So it's across around the county?
Yes, it is around the city, it is predominantly in the city, and it might, sometimes these buildings won't have cladding on the whole thing, they may just have cladding on an extension that's been put on the top, or the penthouse suite, or the top bit, or a section, so sometimes it's not the whole building in itself, it's just an area of the building.
Right.
But that I still think there's probably more buildings out there. We're still having some data integrity issues around what is the problem, and I think that last point at 2.70, we're starting to issue notice under Section 235 of the Housing Act. So this instructs responsible people to send documentation in around construction of the building, height, use, to gain that full picture, and that's going to be something we're rolling out across the county, across local councils, as through our MCA work.
Okay, great. Nick, you'd like to come in on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of this, it looks like some good work. I mean, obviously it's an admirable target, and in terms of getting rid of unsafe cladding. The only thing that concerns me, and perhaps probably concerns because generally is how this is going to be paid for and some of the problems, particularly around leaseholders, because we're going to have residents in the city, aren't we, going to find out that they've got unsafe cladding and that they are responsible or jointly responsible for remedial work which could cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. And it's a case of, I mean, how does that actually work? I mean, obviously we can make people aware of that and then hope that the freeholders, leaseholders, etc. come together to do something. But is that going to be a significant challenge?
Yes.
Absolutely. One of our part of this role is that data analysis and cleansing at the moment to understand the picture. We then have very regular meetings both with the mayoral office but also with Homes England and MHCLG, and they obviously have the remediation fund set up nationally by the government. Part of our role is making sure that those responsible persons, so building owners, and in part the leaseholders are aware of those funding streams and the ability to access those. Our role is very designated as that regulatory role, so we are having to sort of delineate our work from the engagement and remediation itself, but we are really clear, and one of the roles that's been funded by the mayoral office is a communications role, that will sit centrally across the East Midlands, and their core role, as well as making sure people understand the work that we are doing, is making sure that we are joined up and linked into Homes England around that remediation funding. So there definitely are challenges, there definitely are concerns, but we're working really hard to make sure that it's seen as a project in its entirety rather than just regulation or just remediation when that's done.
Yeah. I suppose when it's outside of our remit, I suppose, because obviously citizens could find themselves with massive bills, couldn't they? You could then identify the freeholder who could do the remedial work, which obviously they should do, and then they'll just whack up the service charge potentially to thousands.
It's definitely, and ever since we saw the remediation on over 18 metre buildings, we have seen this challenge, and we continue to work with the regulatory role with responsible persons, but also making sure we support those people who are our residents in those properties as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Right. Any more questions? John. You are keen, aren't you?
Yeah, it's the first time at this committee. It's fascinating.
That's okay.
We're trying to keep him out.
Tom, can I take you back to your unwanted fire signals?
Yes.
Just looking at them, it's not clear. You've got 177 non-residential premises, hospitals, and then 80 of residential premises, care homes, residential care, student halls, and residents. The 490 sheltered housing, purpose-built flats and houses of HMOs, is that considered residential or non-residential?
So that is how we report that data. So there is a little bit of just trying to, so since I've been sort of reporting to this committee, I've trying to bring some more information to you for scrutiny. That is how we are breaking it down in our, under our performance dashboards around attendance of these incidents. I have a significant piece of work at this point in time ongoing around making this data make a bit more sense in terms of, because there is an obvious crossover, as you just highlighted, around what class is residential, what doesn't, when there's two sort of residential that you would classify as residential in there.
Yeah, I mean, a hospital, self-explanatory, no one wants to live in a hospital. And care homes, I get they're residential, but it's not really clear whether the sheltered housing and purpose-built flats, you would think purpose-built flats would be residential, wouldn't it?
I think
but it's notated as a dwelling, so it's a nomenclature, I suppose, around how we are designating it.
I think it highlights a really good point around service delivery, that portfolio response, prevention and protection. Historically, you may have had those individual work streams and silos. I think it really demonstrates the overlap between all of that. So our response crews will be the people who are going into these premises, seeing these vulnerable people, offering them support through a safe and well visit. Our prevention team will be dealing with the highest risk people within those properties. And then our protection team are responsible for reducing the unwanted fire signals, because most of these are telecare type systems. Yeah. They are for our most vulnerable people, and sadly they are where we see the majority of our fire fatalities are people who are bedbound.
That explains the huge spike in the figures.
Exactly, and we are being challenged. We are challenging ourselves through our CRMP target around reducing those number of unwanted fire signals. But equally, these ones in particular, and really point, the pertinent point from Tom around why we're breaking down that reporting. If you just see, oh, there's a 2% increase in unwanted fire signals and our target is to reduce them, quite rightly, I'd expect some pressure around, well, you're not dealing with that target. When you break it down to say, well, 490 of those, the vast majority are for our most vulnerable people on a national health agenda to keep them in their own homes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're exactly the people we should be attending.
Yeah.
And if there is a false alarm, I'd rather attend that false alarm in a vulnerable person's home. So
That's why I was just wanting to clarify whether it's classed as residential or non-residential, because you deal with non-residentials with the letter, and then
exactly, yeah.
eventually, if it carries on, it triggers an audit.
Yeah, and it,
Well, this-
sorry.
sorry.
I was going to say it is a challenge because these telecare, they have national standards that they have to work to. So our sort of business engagement is more with the telecare handling centres, making sure that they are qualifying those calls for help before they just pass it on to the fire service. But equally, if there's ever any doubt and it's a vulnerable person's home, they've got a telecare system for a reason. So it's a very complex picture, but
there's also a sort of regulatory overlap here around obviously the non-residential premises that do get those audits, that do get those letters. Behind that individual, that citizen's front door, is their home, and we have no jurisdiction in there at all under the regulatory reform order.
Has that actually been triggered? Has it triggered a full audit?
No. So we would never. We don't have any powers to enter or any sort of authority to enforce any sort of change in a domestic. In a residential domestic flat.
No,
So
but
we
for
have
the
common areas we can
non-residential, for
sort
the
of-
non-residential, fourth occurrence on the premises contact.
Yeah.
So has it actually gone on and triggered an audit?
Yeah.
yes, we have, very much so. And it's always indicative. If you get a lot of false alarms at an office in the city, that is normally indicative that their fire safety management system isn't right, but then also there may be issues around other areas as well, and it's always passed on through that.
I've got.
Like someone who just likes to get an extra long break.
Who knows?
I could,
Did I
share
say
some-
that?
Can I share some best practice?
Yeah.
Well, I believe to be some very good practice from the team. So the team, the protection team, are working with Broxlow Borough Council around in a collaborative way to. They're changing out all their smoke alarms for heat detectors in kitchens to try and reduce these unwanted fire signals. So, and we're working very closely as a sort of a partnership there to make sure that the alarm provisions are appropriate, but they've got a plan to have replaced all of those alarms by the end of this financial year. And it sounds like, well, it's a major undertaking, but obviously smoke alarms in a kitchen are very, very susceptible to burning your toast, burning your pasta, whatever you may be doing. Whereas a heat alarm will actually, whereas a heat alarm will be a much more effective and suitable alarm system. And now we're hoping to see. I'm trying to get some data around highlighting that as have we seen a decrease in false alarms since that work has been undertaken? Because I've got it in my notes somewhere. They have many thousands of individual domestic dwellings that they're looking at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Very comprehensive report as ever. Yeah. So thank you for that. And service delivery at the end of the day is what we're about, isn't it? So it needs to be detailed. We've got the recommendations to scrutinise and draw assurance on the performance of service delivery. Well, I think we've done that. And derive assurance on the outcomes of the changes which have been made to attendance at the prison incidents, and in particular the PDAs, the predetermined attendance procedures, which certainly has shown a substantial reduction and saving. So well done on that. So are we all happy to agree to those?
Yeah.
And also, Damien and team, you'll come back to us with the extra bits of information we've asked for. So that's appreciated. Okay. So now we touched on this, but now I have the actual report on the on-call recruitment and retention, and that's that.
Yeah, just a quick intro. This was a paper, a deep dive paper that members have asked for. So as Andy reported in the performance paper update, we have really good performance, but we want better, and some of our stations are continually harder to reach our targets at. So members asked for a bit of a deep dive, and this is what that paper is here for today. So Andy will take us through that.
Okay, Andy.
Thank you. Okay, so just as a background to this paper, as Damien said, this is critical really around that deep dive around some of the information we report to you every quarter as part of the service delivery report. This paper hopefully gives a lot more context on some of that information. So for background, the on-call duty system is an integral part of Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service. 16 of our 24 fire stations have an on-call section, and the majority of our 35 appliances are crewed by on-call firefighters. We have 16 appliances during the day, 17 at night that are crewed by on-call. On-call firefighters are those who live or work within a short distance of their fire station and usually have alternative employment away from the fire and rescue service. Some of the on-call firefighters in Nottinghamshire, as you know, have also another role within the service on a dual employment basis. On-call firefighters carry an alerter, which activates when they are required to respond to an emergency incident, and they must provide up to 120 hours of availability each week. In addition, they must maintain their operational competence by attending weekly drill sessions and completing learning events. On-call sections are vital for Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service in the delivery of our prevention, protection and response activities to communities. On-call crews have delivered over 900 safe and well visits and 26 business safety checks, and have been mobilised to nearly 1,400 occasions during the first 8 months of 2025-26. They are very key to us on-call firefighters and very precious to our ability to deliver our services. Now, nationally, fire and rescue services are struggling to recruit and retain on-call firefighters. This has been a consistent theme in recent inspections and reports from His Majesty's Inspector of Constabularies and Fire and Rescue Services, HMI, and recent research from the National Fire Chiefs Council has found that recruitment and retention remains fragile, with socio-demographic changes, high personal commitment and limited employer support reducing the available pool. Across the country, there's been a 25% reduction in on-call firefighter numbers since 2015. On-call firefighters' resignation rates are 46% higher than their whole-time colleagues. Their average tenure of an on-call firefighter is nearly 11 years less than their whole-time counterpart, and the average availability of on-call appliances in England has fallen to 66%. Over recent years, we as a service have had a concerted, focused effort on enhancing on-call recruitment and retention, because we recognise these issues that are being reported nationally. So as part of the Service Delivery Performance Report that you've just heard, you are very well aware that the key metrics that we judge ourselves on around on-call is around appliance availability, and we have this internal target that we have set within county of availability above 85%, with each individual section available no less than 70% of the time. Now, there are several factors which impact on-call appliance availability, but fundamentally, on a very simplistic level, the establishment at a section is the key factor as to whether an appliance is likely to be available and on the run. At the start of 25-26, Nottingham Fire and Rescue Services has 243 on-call firefighters, with approximately 1/3 of those being employed on a dual employment basis with another role within service, normally as a whole-time firefighter. Individual establishment levels at on-call sections range from 9 at Southwell to 20 at Stapleford. It is not surprising that sections with lower establishment numbers often have lower availability. Southway's availability, for example, is just below 49% to date in 25-26, whereas Stapleford is over 95%. Focus and energy goes into making on-call firefighter recruitment successful. This is led by our on-call support team. Now, I know we've spoken about the on-call support team previously in reports, and I will go into some of the details as their remit within this paper. What happens when it comes to recruitment is the on-call support team begin the process by basically prioritising the key stations that we would like to recruit to. How they do that is through local profiling, and based on 2021 census data, enables the on-call support team to identify the numbers of residents who live within 5 minutes of an on-call station. 5 minutes being key because that is the typical requirement of an on-call firefighter, that they live in close proximity to the station to be able to get in quickly to get the appliance out in a timely manner. They also look at those people within that area that are aged between 18 and 40, which is the typical age range at which we recruit an on-call firefighter. So, for example, in Southwell, we know that there were 1,691 18 to 40-year-olds living within 5 minutes of the station. In Stapleford, there were 6,057. This is really just to highlight the disparity between our on-call sections and what we can expect to achieve really in terms of availability. So at 2.6, the profile, along with analysis of average turnout times of nearby station, enables the on-call support team to determine whether actually there could well be value in increasing that turn-in time. So traditionally, we look at 5 minutes from station, but we can map it and around, well, if we expanded that to 6 minutes, to 7 minutes, to 8 minutes, is there still value in recruiting on-call firefighters from slightly further distances from the station in terms of them still being able to get into station and get that appliance out before, whether it be a whole-time fire appliance or another on-call station appliance, can get into the district's area quicker. So once we've identified a target recruitment zone, the human resources team will publish a recruitment advert, and the on-call sections themselves carry out local recruitment activities supported by our on-call support team and our corporate communications team. Recruitment campaigns are conducted annually and typically last for 6 months. Now, it has been highlighted in national studies that approximately 81% of on-call recruits are attracted to the role through word of mouth and because of their association with existing on-call firefighters. We're often talking here about small, quite close-knit communities where people know each other and know what people do. So what we are currently exploring and looking at is a incentivised, almost a refer-a-friend scheme in effect, to see if this would be a new innovative approach to on-call recruitment. Recruitment campaigns include a lot of things. They include information webinars, engagement with primary employers, have-a-go days. For the current round of recruitment, which is taking place now, the on-call support team has also introduced a family information pack because we have to really appreciate that the impact of being an on-call firefighter has not only on the individual, but clearly on their family members and loved ones. So as a new approach this year, we will be conducting a webinar for family members by family members of existing on-call firefighters so they get a very clear picture of the commitment that is being sought. And I think I've included that as an example of how we are continuously evolving in terms of how we are approaching recruitment of on-call firefighters. Now, what we ask for as a recommendation within this paper is really your continued support. Member support across the fire authorities, across local authorities, in raising the awareness within your local communities where there is an on-call section is really beneficial and really key to support the service to attract people to the role. Now, through the process, applicants are supported by the on-call support team and the individual sections for which they are applying. This includes support for the written application, the fitness testing, exams where they are applicable, job-related tests, interview, references, disclosure and barring service checks, and the medical. There is a lot that we need people to go through, and rightly so. You know, we need to make sure we are getting the right people for the job. Once the recruitment process has been successfully navigated, on-call applicants are offered a place on an initial acquisition training course. Now, traditionally, this initial course would last for 13 weeks, and this can prove a significant barrier in terms of potential attendees due to the requirements of their primary employment. Now, we recognised this some years ago, and in 2021 we introduced a safe to ride policy, which is still quite innovative within the sector, which enables that initial acquisition training to be undertaken in a modular format across 12 months. This option has been cited as a key enabler for a number of new recruits who have recently joined us. The 24-25 recruitment campaign saw 93 applicants across the county, which is exceptional, to be honest. In terms of national trends, that is a significant achievement to get that much interest in the role. Of those applicants, 21 are due to begin initial training with us. I say due to, the January course has begun with 11 of those applicants, and there is a further course in July. For context, three of those new on-call firefighters amongst that 21 will be based at Southwell. So you can see the results we have from that very targeted recruitment. We want to bolster numbers at Southwell because we've come in 9. 3 of that 21 are due to start at Southwell. So another factor that greatly impacts on-call appliance availability is a shortage of those with appropriate qualifications to enable a fire appliance to be mobilised. Now, for an appliance to be on the run, its crewing must include at least one person who's qualified to Incident Command Level 1, so they can take charge of an incident, and one qualified as an emergency fire appliance driver, or clearly we can't turn out from the station, you know. It is quite key, that. So I've used Harworth as an example here of how this impacts availability. So unfortunately, we have had a shortage of supervisory managers at Harworth over recent months because of a long-term absence of an individual who's qualified to ICL Level 1. So now, prior to that absence, which began in September, Harworth's availability was just over 66%, so around that national average, around where we are comfortable with it being, really. In September and October, this fell to 55% availability and 48% availability, simply because we can't turn the appliance out without someone who can command an incident. So despite the fact that there are 17 on-call firefighters at Harworth, it's a very, very healthy section, that loss of a skill has had a really very, very detrimental impact. So what we do is, the on-call support team, when situations like that occur, they prioritise their focus around it. So what we have done is, during October, the on-call support team identified a whole-time watch manager who lives close to the station in Harworth, and they approached that individual with the offer of a short-term dual employment basis contract to support Harworth. And fortunately for us, that individual was willing to do so, and that has greatly impacted the availability at Harworth. In November, the availability is now nearly at 77%. So you can really see that impact of that one skill has a significant difference. To ensure the longer-term resilience at Harworth, the team has also identified a firefighter who will be prioritised for an incident command course during 2026, and another whose primary employment is as a whole-time supervisory manager in South Yorkshire, and they will also be priority for development in terms of our qualifications, so they can also support the section going forward. So whilst on-call recruitment and appropriate qualification are crucial, the service also recognised the importance of similar efforts being placed on the retention of existing on-call firefighters. So currently, 85 of the service's on-call firefighters, so approximately a third, have between 10 and 40 years' experience in that role. Now, the commitment and dedication to that is incredible. When you consider that some of those individuals will have been giving 120 hours availability every week for 40 years, is amazing. Now, a key motivator in retaining staff is attending operational incidents. On-call firefighters cite it regularly that they want to be an on-call firefighter because they want to go out in the fire engine and make a difference. So what we have done is, again, a very innovative approach in the sector is the formation of the on-call support team. Now, whilst the team, as I've just discussed, is very engaged in supporting recruitment and retention, their primary reason for being is to go and make themselves available at stations where availability is struggling for any reason. So the on-call support team consists of 5 whole-time supervisory managers, all of which have an ICL 1 incident command qualification, and all of them who are qualified to drive a fire appliance. Now, in Q2 of 25-26, the mobilisation of members of that teams enabled an additional 8% of availability on weekdays between 7 in the morning and 7 at night, whereas if they hadn't been able to go and mobilise those stations, the appliance would have been off the run. So their value is significant. Another innovation that we have done, and clearly what my point really is the availability of the appliance is key, because on-call firefighter retention is around being available to attend incidents. Every time the appliance isn't available, it means members of the section aren't being afforded the opportunity to go out and make a difference in their community. So another innovative approach that we have taken to maintain on-call appliance availability has been the introduction of alternative crewing. Now, this relates to the crewing of a standard fire appliance with 3 on-call firefighters at times when the section is unable to maintain the traditional minimum crewing level of 4. This has enabled on-call appliances to remain available to attend operational incidents as an additional resource at the most serious incidents, or as part of a predetermined attendance at those incidents that are less significant. So if a P1, key high-risk incident occurs, a alternatively crewed on-call appliance would be mobilised as an additional resource. If it's a P3 fire, similar to what we were talking about, possibly a small fire in Woodland, they would be mobilised as a crew of 3 to deal with that. Now again, during the first 8 months of 25-26, the ability to alternatively crew an appliance with a crew of 3 has also again contributed 8% of on-call availability. So alongside efforts to maintain fire appliance availability, the service has also increased opportunities for on-call firefighters to attend operational incidents. Now, how we have done this is that we have given certain sections the responsibility for special appliances as well, as it is another means of them being involved and being turned out and attending incidents. So, for example, special appliances such as our welfare unit, our water and foam bowser, our high volume pump are crewed by on-call sections. And also, our marauding terrorist attack capability is provided by an on-call section alongside a whole-time section. Now, during 25-26, these opportunities have been further enhanced by our new wildfire capabilities. These have been located with on-call sections at Tuxford, Warsop, Eastleigh and Eastwood, which have been very well received, and again, it is another opportunity for on-call crews to be involved. It is also very important for us to increase opportunities for on-call to attend operation incidents, and we have done that through a policy of short crewing. So what this enables is an on-call firefighter to volunteer to undertake shifts on a whole-time watch when there are shortfalls in the whole-time ridership. So we have this nice blended crossover between an on-call firefighter being able to come and do a 12-hour shift with a whole-time crew. It was a concept that we introduced actually during COVID-19 to ensure that we had resilience across the service, and we have retained that as a concept because we recognise that for some on-call firefighters that really benefits them in terms of their retention. We have also enhanced retention of our on-call firefighters with the opportunity to undertake the full firefighter role. And what I mean by this is that lots of other fire and rescue services do not use on-call firefighters to undertake prevention and protection activities. We do. We encourage it greatly. We recognise that actually giving them the opportunity to go and do that full remit of a firefighter role does benefit them in terms of retention. In April 25, banded contracts were introduced for the on-call, whereas traditionally you had a choice of 2 contracts, 84 hours availability or 120 hours availability. Now clearly that is a significant barrier for a lot of people. Now in April 25, banded contracts were introduced, which there are now 5 contract levels. So we can now offer employment to an on-call firefighter on a 30-hour availability contract, 54 hours, 110, or the existing ones. This provides a lot of flexibility should firefighter's personal circumstances change. So we have created a situation where if we have an on-call firefighter who is currently giving 84 hours availability, something changes in their life, whether it be around their primary employment or their family situation, we can move them onto a 30-hour contract if it suits them and if it suits us. Similarly, we can increase them. And we also anticipate that those new contract levels will make future recruitment easier because now we can go out and recruit people on a 30-hour contract. Another thing that helps with retention is having the opportunity to potentially transfer into a whole-time role. A lot of new recruits cite the fact that they would like to be a whole-time firefighter and they see being on call as a stepping stone to gaining experience and gaining knowledge to then move into the whole-time role. So when we run whole-time recruit campaigns, we often also run a migration process at the same time, which allows our on-call firefighters to apply to move across. In 25-26, 4 on-call firefighters have migrated into whole-time roles. So really the success of the on-call recruitment, the measures that have been taken to effectively plan skill succession, and the efforts that we take to retain firefighters, has that meant that actually as a service, we ended 24-25 with 6 more on-call firefighters than it had at the start of the year, than we had started the year with. Similarly, this year, we are anticipating that we will have two more on-call firefighters at the end of 25-26 than we did at the start. Now, that really bucks the national trend. That is a significant achievement and absolutely stand out in terms of what is going on around the country. So the areas of development trials focus maintained by the service and within response on the on-call support team demonstrates the importance of this vital part of the service and the innovative approaches that we are taking to maintain appliance availability. Thank you.
Super. That's really, really comprehensive and fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, we asked for it. and
We
it's-
did, and we got it. So, quite a few questions, I suspect. Nick was first.
Yeah, thank you for that. And obviously I've been on it for some time now. We've always had these problems in Southwell.
No, I nearly said that. I said,
Yeah.
you get more recruits if you call it Southwell.
That's quite controversial as a city council, I can say what I like. I don't want to offend anybody in that part neck of the woods. No, and it's an instance, and I'm glad that you put the figures, because it does make it quite stark, doesn't it,
Yes.
in terms of the recruitment. I mean, one thing that strikes me, I mean, obviously it's a huge commitment, both for the people who do it and in terms of their family and everything else. But it's difficult. You mentioned here, make reference to employers, because sometimes I think it's a case of how employees would see it. Because obviously from our point of view, you'd see it as a civic duty, wouldn't you? If employees are releasing people, perhaps you'd celebrate that and think
Yes.
that employee's contributed significantly to that community, aren't they?
Yes.
You have a plaque in your local pub, whatever else, saying, you know, Steve the Builder, whatever else. You know, I'm thinking about ways we can get employees to engage with it.
You're absolutely right, and it is a challenge now, because over the last few decades, things have changed in terms of people's employment, haven't they? They've significantly changed in terms of where people travel to work now, the type of jobs people do. We do a lot of work with employers, and we celebrate employers as well. We have a system now where we do exactly what you're talking about, Councillor. We go to present employers with a plaque and a thank you and have a gratitude event. We've had a number over the last few months, really, haven't we, in terms of really trying to provide them with that PR opportunity as well. You know, it's absolutely critical that we continue to do that.
I mean, I suppose also balance doing that and how many we have, because it is a key part of our operational requirements, isn't it? And, you know, in terms of on-call, I know in terms of the crew in there, we did get, and in 221 you're talking about 3 on-call firefighters. Well, if colleagues had this, I had an email from the Fire Brigades Union, and it's not uncontroversial, appropriate to say that here, and they were concerned about workload and potential safety on that. Obviously that's, you know, it's not for us to interfere operationally, but that's contrasted with the fact that, you know, it gives us 8% on call.
Yes.
So I mean, obviously they've got concerns. The Fire Brigades Union felt, you know, if they wrote to every council, I believe they did, concerned about that. So obviously, if we've got colleagues who are working on the front line concerned about it, that you know, flags up something here. Is that going to be a problem in terms of safety or incidents or whatever else going forward?
Yeah, so happy to answer that. And this, I will say, while some services in the country are looking at this now, it's well established and long running here in Nottinghamshire, and we did implement this in consultation with the Fire Brigades Union back in 2018. Now, what I will say is there are, as you would expect, numerous safeguards around this approach. And it wasn't a quick decision to come to as an organisation to implement this. But what I will say is that the process that we go through that Andy's highlighted, in that if this is for a serious incident, we mobilise them as a supernumerary resource at that incident as well. And we have got a number of evidence incidents where, say for a serious road traffic collision, that initial attendance of that appliance, if it's the nearest one, has made a significant difference, both in casualty care, but also getting people on the ground, seeing what's happening and reporting that back. Now, what we have said is that we will always strive to maintain crews of 4 as a minimum, and where possible 5 or 6 on the on-call, which is not uncommon. This is definitely just an additional measure, and we continually review it. What I will say is that in that almost 8 years of running with this process, we haven't had any serious incidents which have resulted in any negative debriefing or implications from it. In fact, quite the opposite. It has made a positive impact to our response to communities. And I will just finish by saying, when you speak to the on-call crews, the only feedback or consistent feedback I get about this is that if there was a serious incident in their community, because they are normally from such close-knit communities, the impact of not being able to attend, and they could have been available, far outweighs their concerns around attending with a crew of 3. And they do have a limited operational capacity, which is very, very clearly briefed and trained and reiterated with them. I hope that answers it.
Yeah.
Ish.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Who was next? David.
Mine's not a question, it's a comment, really about the team in terms of the backup team
Yeah,
and everything. I thought that was a really good idea, and I wanted to mention it before it got lost into the, you know, everything else, because there's something really significant being done there to address the problem, and I feel quite successfully done so. Really good idea. Yes,
Thank
well,
you. Yeah, it is, and the team are fantastic. The team have got a really good understanding. They work so hard, and we've developed that over a number of years as well. We're much more targeted now in terms of making sure we target that availability, and you can see in the report nearly 10% difference. And it's those sort of things that the alternative career and availability, it takes us from that national average up to really where we are. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other?
No. Loving it.
It is good. I'm so. I know there's a lot of work for you to pull this together for us, but it is appreciated. And we are, as you say, bucking a national trend, and that's something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
And have we had any other fire authorities sort of coming along to us and seeing how we do it? And,
Yes.
Have we?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Quite a few. Quite a few.
So we're innovating, really.
We're in a very good position in Nottinghamshire around our standing, if you like, around the national on-call position. We recently hosted a national event within Nottinghamshire where all other services came to us, as I say, as the host of a on-call conference. And I think currently we're about, in terms of our national availability, we're around 4th best in the country, which is significant, and lots of these innovative practices that we are talking about, we like to promote, and lots of these national on-call conferences come in, we are quite front and centre in talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and because of that it does generate a lot of interest and a lot of visits from other services to come and see if they can implement similar things.
That's good. We're proud of that. Excellent. Well, thank you. So we've got just for the minutes really, we've got the recommendation that we draw assurance that Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service is addressing the challenges of on-call recruitment and retention to maintain current levels of the on-call appliance availability. Well, I think we do. And supports the local efforts to recruit on-call firefighters through the local networks. And I suppose everyone's got a role to play in that. We have, our contacts do our, we will continue to do our bit on that. So thank you, and thank you to the team as well for what they're doing. Our on-call firefighter, do you think they feel appreciated? Because I'm sure they do from you and the team, but
it is
in the general sort of wider world, I do sometimes wonder when people think, oh, you're only on call.
Well, I think there is a lack of
understanding,
understanding, if you like, amongst the general public as to what the role is and what commitment their neighbours are giving for their local communities.
Yes.
Don't do that.
I was just going to say, it really sums up well. I think generally the vast majority of the public don't understand what an on-call
This is
firefighter
it.
They see a fire engine,
And
and unless they're part of that really immediate community, they don't understand.
Yes.
And then when the papers were published last week, one of our local media outlets covered it with the headline "Part-time firefighters." And I would argue 120 hours a week is anything but part-time. And that sort of generalisation really doesn't help, because they are some of the most committed people you will ever meet, and so many of these people give their time, not for the money, not for the kudos, but just for their local community, and it is a real credit to them. So I hope they feel valued. Whether there is a greater societal awareness, I think that's something we all need to continue to work on to promote what they are and what they do.
You know, I think it's a valid point. Before I came on here, I'd not really given it much of a thought, to be honest with you. I mean, I have now. I mean, I've got Stock Hill in my, my council ward, for example. So I've got, there's people who do that, close to the area I represent. I mean, I think the other thing is I'm thinking about social media and what we can do to promote this, because to be honest with you, in terms of, it's fantastic commitment, it's wonderful public service, and we don't really celebrate that sort of public service a lot, do we? Because we only ever hear about it when something goes wrong in a police or anything else, where we've had, whatever it is, some bad news or rotten egg or whatever else, but the millions of other people who are actually undertaking things, the communities we don't celebrate enough. And I wonder if we can do this. We did some decent stuff on social media to attract people from different communities, but actually having working of our staff saying, well, I come from this community, I've done this, I've added this, I'm proud to serve, you know, the community, and perhaps have something like that about, you know, and I'm sure you've thought about it. Well, I don't think people outside of this, we don't give it much thought. You kind of assume stuff, don't you? And you obviously, you think it's wonderful we've got people brave enough to go rescue people, go into burning buildings, but we don't think about on-call firefighters in their community. And I think they should be celebrated more, I think, you know, to say the least.
Yes, definitely.
No, so yeah, we'll definitely look at what more we can do, and again, sharing that through your social media presence, the local authorities media is really, really welcome, because yeah, we've got still a chunk of work to do.
Yeah, David.
Just on the social media front, the case history that's shareable through social media. If you look at how many of us there are throughout Nottinghamshire, some of those social media pages have hundreds of thousands of views every month. So the sheer reach for free is vast, you know. So just to put it out there.
Yeah, thank you.
It needs to be in areas that are on-call stations.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely take that up outside of this, and that support is really helpful.
I mean, sorry, you think perhaps local businesses, like say your local pub or restaurant, would like to give people, you know, there's a blue light discount or celebrate or put like an event on, you know, to think, well, actually, thanks a lot. You know, these people aren't often seen, and you know, they should be celebrated in many ways, shouldn't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's January, so I'm just about to give an annual report to the whip for Meg, and I think there's something we can do.
We appreciate
Actually,
it.
you know, make something of it instead of talk about it, and we're all appreciative, and nothing will happen because nobody's actually picked up and ran with it. So we'll have a look at that seriously.
Wonderful. Okay. And David.
I'm not sure if you do this already, but why not have an award for, not necessarily monthly, but a set period where someone wins the award for being the outstanding person for that period, and then share that on social media. And when they win the award, they say a little bit about themselves and, you know, what it means to them and family and all that stuff.
Definitely, yeah, we'll have a look at
So
how
it
we can
makes
see
it
that recognition.
more purposeful than, you know, just a case history.
And another thought, and I should know this, but I genuinely can't remember. You know, the annual awards we do in Nottingham. I've not been able to go to the last couple of years. It always clashes with things. But do we do anything there for
Yes.
Yeah.
we do. Yeah,
We do.
sorry, I know. Perhaps I should have known that, but I wasn't.
I think someone get a 50-year award?
Yeah, to recognise.
They
The on-call
walked
very
up
much
to
part
collect a
of that.
50-year service.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. Well,
Thank
we've
you.
covered that well. So, and we're just for the record, we're all happy with the recommendations.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, and please pass our
We will.
our
Yeah,
comments and appreciation to the crew.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Takes us on to the final item, which is the area for improvement closure on the risk-based inspection programme. So is that
It is, Tommy. I'll just do a quick intro. No, that's fine. So the risk-based inspection programme. So this is around the last inspection by His Majesty's Inspectorate, so HMIC FRS. And in that, members may recall, we got one area for improvement. So that was down from 24 in the 2019 inspection, just one area for improvement. Tom's going to take us through that, and we're really delighted to be able to present the proposal to close that. This was delegated by the Fire Authority to this committee to have the oversight. The recommendation you'll see will be to report back to full authority for that closure. But Tom's going to take us through the robust approach we've had to hopefully providing you with assurance that we've addressed this area.
okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So just to give you that sort of background, so at the meeting of the full Fire Authority in September 2024, members were presented a report from His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services following the most recent inspection of Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service in April of that year. And we received one area for improvement was given to the service by HMIC FRS regarding the risk-based inspection programme. And just for context, during the third round of inspection, the average number of areas for improvement awarded to services was 17. So we did very well to only get one, as upsetting as it was to get the one. So to oversee that improvement, the robust governance approach that Damien's just mentioned was put in place. And this report at 1.4 presents the results of the independent evaluation and recommends the closure of the area for improvement. So moving on then to 2.1 in the report. So the area of improvement identified in the HMIC FRS report related to the inspection area of fire and protection and was reported, and I'll say this verbatim, as the service should assure itself that its risk-based inspection programme prioritises the highest risks and includes proportionate activity to reduce risk. This was a continuation of the AFI for our risk-based inspection programme, which was given in the 2021 inspection. And whilst HMICFS did acknowledge the significant amount of work that had been undertaken in this area, they wanted to see more embedding and assurance in this area before our area for improvement was removed. So as councillors, as I'm sure you're all aware, the risk-based inspection programme is the central methodology governing how we prioritise our resources to inspect and audit all non-domestic buildings within Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So as we've previously reported to members in March 2025 and October 2025, the service has addressed this area for improvement through peer review and an independent evaluation which has been undertaken by a consultant, which in this case was Nottingham Trent University, to ensure an objective assessment and assurance of our risk-based inspection programme process. So very important to us that we weren't sort of marking our own homework. We have done significant work to fully rewrite the risk-based inspection programme methodology, to bring in as much data sets as we can, make sure we're aligned with sector best practice and certainly National Fire Chiefs Council sort of guidance on the matter. So at 2.5, we have received this independent evaluation on 25th November last year, which was earlier than anticipated. So as such, the decision taken at the Community Safety Committee on 10th of October 25 to present the results of the evaluation to the Policy and Strategy Committee later this month was altered to bring the evaluation results to this meeting, which was good because this was always the meeting we wanted to report to for that sort of continuity of scrutiny. So hopefully you've all had sight of the full draft evaluation report, which has been attached within your report packs. You will see, and again I will read out some verbatim quotes, so please excuse me because I'm really proud of the work that the team has done in this area. So you'll see the report concludes that our updated risk-based inspection programme, and I quote, represents a significant improvement over the previous model. It combines National Fire Chiefs Council risk scores with locally defined data sets to create a more intelligence-led approach. This methodology strengthens prioritisation of high-risk premises and aligns inspection frequency with statutory requirements. Additionally, the model is assessed as robust through the completed statistical analysis, and that Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Services inspection strategy is risk-focused and proportionate with clear alignment between risk categories and staff competence levels. And just as a bit of extra detail on the staff competence level that's referenced to 2.7, within the report on page 12, it gives that, there's a very nicely laid out table explaining our competence levels in the team. But the report is still in draft, so we have had a meeting with the consultant to feedback some areas that inevitably, because they have only taken a snapshot, we would like to see included in that. And one such area is obviously got our level 3 introductory certificates that we've talked about in terms of our business safety checks with response crews all the way through to level 4 diploma, level 5 diploma. We do then have fire engineers, which is a master's level qualification. And not every fire and rescue service, well, significant numbers of fire and rescue services do not have fire engineers working in the service. And we have 2. So we have a full spectrum of qualification enabling us to take action at multiple different levels on that sort of enforcement and advisory journey in fire protection. But so a real demonstration of that commitment and resourcing to the fire protection team. So moving back to the report at 2.8, so the findings I've just quoted to you in the previous 2 paragraphs and detailed within the evaluation report directly respond to the Inspectorate's area for improvement statement, which was at paragraph 2.1. So while the area for improvement is recommended for closure, this does not signal the end of the work being undertaken to further develop, refine and improve our risk-based inspection programme to ensure its ongoing performance and relevance to the risks relating to Nottinghamshire's non-domestic premises. 2.10, as I've just previously alluded to, the evaluation report is still in draft. We have met with the consultant and added some areas that, for context, that we would wish to see included just for clarity, because this will be a document that you will scrutinise. And I think an example of that is at page 16 onwards. The consultant listed a lot of evidence from other fire and rescue services as examples of best practice. And one of the things that I've asked to be included in the final report is the fact that I think all but one of them we are doing already. We really are looking at delivering. You know, there's a lot of tables included there. We do all these things. So you can be assured that we are. You know, we do have immense oversight of our special inspection programme. It is not a static thing. We're always looking to improve. So just for the final two paragraphs, so 2.11, a gap analysis we're now doing internally to ensure that the areas identified and suggested by the consultant for continued improvement within the evaluation are captured and progressed, and that will inform our future development, because there's always areas where we can improve on, as I've just said. And finally, at 2.12, it's recommended this work now presents a robust response to the area for improvement, and that suitable progress and assurance has been demonstrated to yourself, and as such it's recommended that members approve the discharge of oversight for this AFI back to the full fire authority with the recommendation for closure.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, just to sum up and just really say that incredibly proud of the work that's been done here. And I would say we've got our next inspection by the inspector in June of this year coming, and I will be making very strong representation that this not only addresses our area for improvement, but I honestly think there are significant areas of outstanding in what we're doing now. We've got that evidence and that independent objective view by Nottingham University we're grateful for. I think it gives us such a strong position for that. And I might be biased slightly, but there is some objective, really focused reporting there around how good this team is doing. So, yeah, really proud of that.
It's extremely robust, isn't it? It's really good.
Any comments or questions? No. The word is robust.
Yeah.
That's spot on. And what a detailed report as well Trent University has done. And so we pass on our appreciation for their work, but also you and the team for working with them to get to it. For this single item. That's what it's nice to say, isn't it? The only area for improvement. And the trouble is, you worry, don't you, that if come the next inspection, oh no, what will it be anything? We'll see. So no, that's really good. And well done all of that. So,
Chair,
yeah.
just before you round up then, from our point of view, I know that everybody here has commented to me at some point. This is the committee they all love. You're professional, you present things really well, and it's the one that's totally apolitical. So credit to opposition. There's never any friction. We share ideas, we get on great. So yeah. I could come here all day.
Sub for Terry next time.
Terry thinks he's on this committee though.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be having words. So, for the record, for the minutes, the recommendations scrutinise and draw assurance from this report and the results of the external evaluation as shown in Appendix A. Agree that sufficient assurance can be drawn from the evaluation and that the members' scrutiny of the area for improvement, that one area for improvement has been satisfied, and discharge the area for improvement back to the full fire authority with the recommendation for closure. So that'll be at the next meeting of the...
Yeah, I believe in the committee updates which you'll now present from this, we will include it in that briefing there.
Good. Okay, super. So we're all happy with it.
Good,
thank you.
yeah.
So that's the final item on the agenda, isn't it? So thank you, colleagues, old and new.
Thank you.
And officers, thank you for your time and responses. And we look forward to receiving the extra bits of information you'll be getting. So we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.